Jersey Beer Guys
and One Girl
podcast is hosted by Rob Dowie.
I think I got it, but just in case, tell me the whole thing again. I wasn't listening.
Amy Diamond.
You are a very well-respected journalist in the craft beer industry. You know that, don't you?
With Ian Dowie.
I only came here to do two things, man. Kick some ass and drink some beer. Looks like we're almost out of beer.
And Eric Bracken.
Damn, I'm thirsty. I want a beer. What about you? You want a beer?
Featuring Tony Iocono of the Two Brewthers Podcast.
Tell what's in beer, eh? Like my brother can tell the difference between beers by what his burps taste like.
And Kevin Reilly of Philly Beer Trail.
Now you listen here. He's not the Messiah. He's a very naughty boy. Now go away.
Produced by me, Richard Rabin.
I think this is one of the traits of a really good producer. Keep the talent happy.
It's the show about New Jersey craft beer you didn't know you wanted to listen to. Hello, welcome to another fine episode of Jersey Beer Guys and a Girl. Richard the Weary producer here, and today we are at Atco Brewing. What a fine place. I was there before the pandemic, and they've done a bunch of revamping. They've got a new brewer, Nick, who is who we're speaking to now. We've got a couple personnel changes in the lineup today. Well, I'm there, actually taking Ian's place today. And also sitting in with us is another familiar voice you'll hear from time to time, Kevin Reilly from Philly Beer Trail. He's sitting in today. This is also a two-parter. Yeah, a two-parter. I don't know if this is my weird influence or not, but we ran like 2 hours. You guys remember ever any Jersey Beer Guys and a Girl episodes running 2 hours? So we split in two parts. I'm sure it's happened before. In fact, I know it's happened before, but yeah, this time we ran long, so... Which just means great conversation, right? And that's exactly what this was. A lot of great conversation. Amy did her best of asking those fun, insightful questions from the beer novice. And we all love them. I know I certainly do. And I think it's time to kick off another Tony's Takes.
What's your name? What? What's your name? Tony!
Hello and welcome to Tony's Takes. This is a reoccurring segment on the Jersey Beer Guys and Girl podcast where I sit with my jar of pennies and throw in my 2 cents on beer-related opinions. This week's take is how to properly use the Untappd app. The Untappd app is one of my favorite apps and easily my favorite beer tracking app. Tappd is a beer rating app that can also help you find beers that you might like going off your beer ratings for similar beers. It can tell you where to find beers or where the beers you might like are. This app works with breweries, liquor stores, bars, restaurants. You can sign up for alerts for when beers come out or if they're in your location. The Untappd app will even tell you about beer events in your area. Here's how to use Untappd. The user searches for the beer he or she is drinking on Untappd, and then they rate the beer from 0 being the worst beer they've ever had, aka Bud Light Lime, or 5 being amongst the best beers the user has ever had. The user gets different badges for checking in beers. You can invite friends on Untappd or make new ones. You can toast someone's beer check-in. It's another arm of social media linked through drinking. Here's how to not use Untappd. Untappd is the bane of existence for many brewers and breweries. Bad ratings tend to upset the brewer's hard work. Untappd also seems to work as the market research that the social media managers for the breweries love to see and tells them what sells and what works. Here's how to not use Untappd. If you do not like IPAs, don't give an IPA a bad rating because you dislike hoppy beers. Leave it unrated. If you didn't like tuna fish, would you go to a restaurant, order a tuna fish sandwich, then give the restaurant a bad Yelp review? No, you're a jabroni if you do. If you like IPAs and dislike an IPA that you've had, by all means, give it a rating that you think it deserves. But in the comments, leave what your tasting notes are. Say it tasted astringent or was too funky for your taste. Here's my rating system on Untappd. If you follow me on my previous podcast, Two Brewthers, we had an entire show dedicated to rating beers from the brewery just visited. I have rated over 2,000 unique beers on Untappd and adding more by the day. Here's how my rating system works. Any beer that I rate a 3 out of 5 or above, I would have again. Any beer I rate a 4 out of 5 or above, I would buy a 4-pack, a 6-pack, a growler, I would have it again. Any beer I rate a 5 out of 5, I consider transcendent, a delicious creation of hops, malt, yeast, and water. I would seek that beer out to the ends of the earth. Less than 1% of the beers I've checked in on Untappd, I have rated a 5. You can follow me on Untappd at Tony Iocono, that's TonyIocono. In summation, please be respectful but honest when giving out an Untappd rating for the brewers and brewery workers. This is their livelihood and how they support their families. These are small business owners who need your business during this unprecedented time. The line is beer brings people together, don't be a jabroni, and that's Tony's take for this installment of Jersey Beer Guys and Girls Podcast. Cheers.
Okay, let's get the ball rolling.
What you are about to hear is bizarre, unsettling, and riveting.
We've got entirely too many troublemakers here.
10 seconds to self-destruct.
If there's still a world left when this is all over, I'd like to buy you a beer.
To alcohol, the cause of and solution to all of life's problems.
Alrighty, here we are, another episode of Jersey Beer Guys.
And the girl.
There you go, she's here. So things are a little bit different today. So we're sitting in Atco Brewing. So Amy and I are here. Well, you just heard Eric. Eric tripped in. That's Eric's there. So we're doing roll call. Ian, you here? Oh, wait.
He has a good reason.
He does have a good reason.
Baby Towie, Mac Ryan Towie was born 2 weeks ago. So Ian's, now that he's married and a kid, I guess he's out of the picture.
He's done.
For the next 18 years. He's done. So
maybe 15.
He might call in.
So hopefully we'll see Mac Ryan out here in 21 years on the podcast.
Yeah, that would be interesting.
Yeah, we have a fill-in. He's doodling with the board over there. How you doing, sir? Introduce yourself.
Who is this?
I am. I got a lot of nicknames now. I guess Richard. You go Richard, right?
That's a nickname?
That's not a nickname.
Well, I was Ricky Retardo, and that's Richard seems a lot nicer, right?
Yeah, it does. That it does. So that's Richard at the board because you don't really want me operating the board. So we have another kind of a guest, kind of maybe a future contributor to the podcast with us.
We got to discuss that.
You hear his voice in the intro with Amy. We have the one and only Kevin Reilly O'Reilly.
There you go.
Chewy, we're home. That's what I say. And you'll be discussing with my agent, not me. So,
so your wife.
Yeah. Well, she likes us more than you, so
right.
Okay.
We're good.
Take them, please.
We could just bring her on.
She couldn't get me out the door quick enough this morning, so I was sitting in the parking lot at 7:30. I'm like, what time are these guys open?
Thank God there's a Dunkin' Donuts close by, right? So we're at Atco Brewing. Like I said, it's a Saturday. We're sitting here with Nick, their new brewer. Nick, how you doing?
I'm good. How about you?
I'm doing good. So we have a couple beers in front of us. So, Nick, you've been here since November, you said?
Yeah. First week in November, I started brewing.
Okay. So we have these two beers in front of us now. Are both these your beers?
Yeah, these are beers that have been brewed since I started.
I'm going to get right to it because I'm kind of thirsty, so you guys...
I'm almost done.
Some things never change.
Yeah.
I put the mild out here because I think it's like the easiest starter.
Okay.
It's just pub beer.
All right. So it's a brown English ale, right?
English pub ale, English mild.
Okay.
It's called Diagon Ale. When I first started here, they were saying they wanted to do a Harry Potter beer, and figured, we're not going to do a butter beer.
Right.
It's already been done before, and just English style ales in general are nice, easy drinking, the kind of thing that I would like after a shift anyway. Brewing, sweating on the brew deck, and then drinking 9%, hoppy, like palate wrecker isn't really go-to.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So this just is a beer that, I just want to sit back and have a full pint of.
Drink.
Yeah.
So English ales are kind of not a popular type of beer, are they?
Well, I think overall you find, it's not, hypey, posted on every beer page, but you go to most people and you hand them a good, well-executed English style ale, or Kevin and I were talking about Pilsners. You give a well-executed, simple beer to most people and they know where you're coming from.
Okay. So if somebody was trying to equate this to a more popular beer that they would find in their liquor store, what would you, like a commercial brand, what kind of would be close to this? Tough question right off the bat.
I know, right?
Well, damn, it's early for this.
Yeah, I'm not even,
I don't
commercial beer.
He's like, I don't go to that side of the liquor store.
This is it's a darker, mild ale. I really would have, I also really like the more bready, biscuity stuff, like a Boddington's or something like that. This has almost like a little bit of an Earl Grey tea flavor that I get out of it.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but yeah, you get you get Sam Smith's and all that kind of stuff. I always, when I go there, if I go for English beer, it's
So this beer doesn't compare to anything else, is what you're telling us.
No, not. I wouldn't pretend. I'm sure that I wouldn't pretend to say that I would execute anything as well as an English brewer who's been doing it for it's just my take on what I'd like to drink,
and it's good.
It is good. It is good. It's easy
very drinkable. What's the alcohol content?
4.5.
4.5. So it's an easy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. On the higher end of what you would call a mild, honestly, like that's usually in like the high 3s, low 4s.
Okay.
But
maybe you'd handle this pretty well. We could probably get about 3 or 4 hours out of you with one of these.
Probably. Let's try.
Challenge accepted.
I know, right?
Because I think that 6-hour claim is out the window anymore.
5 hours.
It was 5? I gave you a whole extra hour.
Anytime a 5-hour rule, yeah.
Okay, so I don't think we've gotten...
So we're on the clock.
I've been good.
What's that?
We're already on the clock.
Yeah.
It's ticking.
So Nick, I really enjoy this beer. Usually when people hear about English beers, they're like ESBs, English bitters, and stuff like that. But this is the polar end of the spectrum, and it's nice. You're right. It's easy drinking.
Yeah.
I'm going to try to figure out what I can eat with this.
It looks like you can eat everything.
Yeah.
I think
like
it
you're
stands
gonna
up
have
to
a
some
problem.
bold.
I almost put Katie or Amy across the room when I sat down on the bench. So.
There was the COVID-19, but some of us exceeded that one. Yeah.
I'm sorry, we interrupted you, Nick. You were about to answer the question.
Oh no, I was just saying it stands up to bolder flavors than you would think. I think it's like a beer that you could probably do some spicy stuff with because it's mild. But then on the other end of the spectrum, you could probably be a little bit more mellow on your palate and let that kind of overpower it. I think there's definitely two schools of thought when you're talking about pairing beer too.
Right.
Like you could go spicy with an IPA because the IPA is going to heighten that spice.
Yeah.
Or you could go with something like this that would help to mute your palate or like mellow it back down again and meld everything into one.
That would be made something to put the fire out.
Yeah. If there's a style, you're right. If there's a couple different styles of looking at it, I'm always to try and go to the opposite, right? What's going to make the balance, right? If this is really spicy, what's going to help me counter that and create some kind of balance in my mouth?
Yeah. Every once in a while, though, I just want like the hoppiest IPA I can have with like a really good spicy like dry rubbed steak or something like that.
Right. But then you'd probably have a side though, right? That's probably not the spiciest thing on the planet,
some mashed
right? So
potatoes
somewhere,
or something. It's got to balance out somewhere.
Somewhere, right?
Yeah.
Somewhere down the line, balance comes in. Yeah.
All right, so I'm on to the next beer. I haven't finished that first beer, but I'm on to the next beer. So,
all right, what we got?
This is Affogato IPA. Affogado's an Italian dessert. It's basically a scoop of gelato that they pour a shot of espresso over top of.
That's a good pairing.
And
they have the best food.
the past.
No wonder why they eat dinner at 10 o'clock at night. God, they're awake.
The past couple years, over the past 2 years, I've been in Italy 3 times, and then COVID happened. So can't do any vacationing, and
right.
So I figured I'd do something to bring Italy around. So I have some Italian espresso roast that I cold brewed in one of our smaller bright tanks.
Okay.
Just enough to give you a little bit of nose and flavor, and then meld in with there's lactose and Madagascar whole Madagascar vanilla beans in it.
Okay.
Yeah, you're definitely getting a nice.
It's
nice,
good,
but it's not over.
What Abe? I see Amy. I see the light bulb going
I just
off.
don't know. I don't know. I don't know how you guys get those little tastes out of it. I don't know. And I just know what they are. I mean, it's very good. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
I don't know how to get vanilla out of that. I have to think about it.
Yeah.
If I sip it and think about it, then it's there.
It's
I'm
creamy
just amazed
and sweet.
at your palate. To be, all you guys with your palate being able to see what is in there, what flavors you get.
It's a lot of practice drinking a lot of beer.
No
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Practice. No Boone's Farm, Amy.
So Rob, growing up, was she always the one that was like, I just want chicken fingers?
And she laughed.
Right?
Listen, you have no idea how I grew up. Listen, my food was been taken away from me for years. I was told I did not like cheese on my pizza because my brothers would steal.
She did this
What?
too.
What? No, like they would steal the cheese. So no, see they got to build up their palates because they stole my food.
Well, listen, Abe, you can thank us now because you're skinny.
Oh, is that why?
Now I'm fat. So yeah, so
that's
you got
the
your
reason.
Revenge.
You're welcome. Yes,
you got your revenge. So
I'm sorry if I opened up any wounds.
Yeah,
there.
I know, right?
You're gonna be back in therapy Monday.
Yeah, I'm going to be drunk today.
Good plan.
She's got to eat.
Did I hear off mic a discussion? No lactose in this?
No, there is.
Oh, there is. Okay.
Yeah. It's on the mellower side of things with the lactose. I didn't go super heavy. I still wanted it to be an IPA at the end of the day.
Right.
You know, there's something to be said for being super heavy-handed and just like throwing things at people and letting them know what you're doing. But for my style, more often than not, I lean towards something that's mellow, balanced, and has all the flavors, but isn't overpowered by one.
I think that's the new sorcery. Because I think the sorcery. I didn't mean to go. I'm sorry. I think the one sorcery is hiding the high alcohol content. Right. I think the other sorcery now is lactose definitely has a taste. You sort of know what it is when it's in a beer, and if you can hide the lactose taste, like I almost thought it didn't.
Yeah, it's creamy and soft, but it's not.
Yeah, it doesn't have that overly milkshakey feel. You know what I mean? It still has a solid IPA taste and feel without feeling like a milkshake. Even though it's still creamy in a good way.
Yeah, we were talking about it initially as like doing some milkshake type beers, which I've done in the past other places, and my thought going into it was like we can do that, but I think that people are going to start to expect way bold, and I feel like it would be a nice pivot to do something that was a little bit more balanced.
Yep, back to balance. Right.
So, my question: lactose.
Yes.
When you add it to a beer, it makes it creamier.
It's milk-derived sugar.
Okay, which is funny because before you guys started talking, when I took the one sip after I said with the flavor buds or whatever, I was really kind of concentrating. I'm like, it's a creamy beer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so that explains it.
So in the process of building the recipe too, knowing that I'm going to be putting lactose into the beer, there are grains that can lend more of a full-bodied mouthfeel that kind of make it feel like it's part of a bigger whole. So flaked or malted oats, same thing, flaked or malted wheat. Spelt's another one, which is essentially just an ancient grain form of wheat.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And each of those, because it has higher levels of unfermentable starches, leaves like a fuller body and mouthfeel.
Okay.
And that kind of, I think, is the bridge between lactose, which makes it, like you said, Rich, the flavorful lactose thing, and then having the grain that builds into that, and you just have like a full mouth.
Right.
Yeah, just looking at this beer, I would think it would be like a real heavy mouthfeel, and it doesn't. Because
it's not.
Really,
No.
it is pretty thick.
It's not overpowering.
Yep.
Right.
No, not at all. You think it's
when you first look at it, it's like, I'm not too sure about that. But
you think it's like
filling.
Yeah.
It looks filling.
Hazy IPA. I can't even talk.
Yeah.
I've been working on that, like changing the way we treat our water and how we build recipes in order to have stable, maintainable haze without it being like chunky.
Right. Now,
the water is important on that.
Since you've come on board, are there any recipes that you that they kept that you're going to still brew, or have you? How much of these are your own now?
The stuff that's been brewed since I got here has been some form of collaboration between me, Sean, and Jay, like where I have an idea and I say, hey, I'm thinking about doing this. And they say, well, we need to kind of get, we want to try a new hop or whatever. And then we just sit down and I usually write up a recipe and send it off to them, and they say, well, how about we do this so it's not like something else that we already did.
Okay.
Change it.
Right.
But that's the fun part.
Yeah. But there are beers like Caboose Juice and Mr. McOatpants, which people know as Atco, that aren't currently on right now because they had gotten canned right before I started.
Okay.
And we were working our way through all these things. So those are going to come back again. And our intention together is that we can make that a beer that stays on the shelf. Like the Caboose Juice is just the IPA that you're going to be able to get here.
Right.
The Mr. McOatpants is the double IPA you're going to be able to get when you come here.
Which both have been really well receptive in this area, kind of deal. Like you said, it's like a staple.
Yeah, exactly. And that's kind of what we're going for, is to nail down those staples and do them more regularly, and then to also be able to play around. Now that we were talking beforehand, we got 2 more tanks online since I started here. The fermenter and the bright tank that are right here next to us were not plumbed in yet when I started. So in order to basically start mass producing, because for the past year, through getting through all of the COVID stuff, Jay and Sean were running the business, managing everything, working their day jobs, and brewing all of the beer.
Okay.
So when I came in, it was like, all right, you're in the brew house, and we can go back to running the business and selling the beer, and you know what I mean? So where it was harder for them to maybe get 2 brew days in the same week, I'm having trouble finding enough days to brew. Okay. I'm like, let's just fill tanks.
Need more space.
That's why they're there.
We're gonna fill everything.
A bunch of Full Metal friends. I like that.
Yeah.
So, do you guys have a seltzer? No. Okay, so
I like that. Nah.
I mean, it's not something that I've ever brewed. I've been places that have brewed them before, but it's not something that I've ever brewed myself. I think that even with the amount of tank space that we have, in order to do a well done seltzer that's really bright, clean, and tastes like nothing in the back end, takes time and effort that would, from my perspective, it would supplant our ability to brew a lager instead.
Okay.
And I would kind of prefer, because it would take more time. You want a slower fermentation so that you don't get any of the off flavors from any of the yeast or anything like that, and you want it to be, straightforward and clean.
Right.
And that would be time that I could have a Pilsner in a tank in order to get out.
Yeah, seltzers are very inexpensive to brew. I mean, they're just money makers
sugar,
for brewery. Yeah,
but they're a way to introduce a lot of people that don't drink beer.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
To get them in.
Yeah,
get them in.
My hope is that a mellower sour or a farmhouse fermented type, like Saison type beer, can also be that same bridge.
Okay,
you just have to get you have to get people to trust you and your palate to match theirs. But I tended bar and waited tables and managed restaurants for 20 years before I started brewing.
Okay,
so
what were you, 8?
I know. I was thinking the same thing.
I swear I'm not as young as I look.
Welcome to the Fisher Price Diner. What can we do for you?
My first job was washing dishes at a catering hall here in Atco, because I grew up in town.
You grew up in town?
Yeah,
okay.
And so I was 15 years old washing dishes, and from that point forward, I always worked in restaurants.
Okay. So 35.
Yeah, so
around there.
Like Nick said, him and I were talking earlier. He's got a great pedigree. That's what I was really excited when I heard his pedigree and coming over here. You've been at some really nice shops, some really, really well-known shops, which is nice coming down here.
Well, I know you got Chimney Rustic Ales.
Yeah, I started up with them and was doing build out and everything. That was the third brewery I had worked at. I did packaging at Yards before that.
Okay,
and that was really cool because it was a completely different style than anything that I'd ever really considered as a brewer before. Because that larger scale of regional brewery is that's a dying breed. They still do beer really well. They still saturate the market with their beer as much as possible. They have a huge, beautiful space, but it's never been anything when I was I'm going to become a brewer, that a place like that would be on my radar as a job.
Right.
But from my restaurant background, I got a job as a server, knowing that I wanted to brew beer eventually at the Tired Hands Fermenteria. I worked there for a few months and started bartending at the Brew Cafe. And over the course of time of me bringing homebrew in with the brewers and sitting down and BSing and talking shop with a lot of the brewers, my buddy Mike, who's a good friend of mine now, but we were just co-workers at the time, was the head brewer at the Brew Cafe, and he said, they're going to give me a part-time assistant brewer. You're the one. I'm going to reach out first to you. And I was like, yeah. I mean, it's kind of why at the end of the day, that is why I got the job at Tired Hands. And whether I was thinking that I was going to become a brewer there, I wanted to be in the industry.
Good. Right.
Whether it was a manager or whatever, I knew that I wanted to work in the beer industry on that side of things. So that's why I went there.
Yeah, because for those of us that can't do science and shit like that, we're on this side of the other side of the beer industry.
Yeah, and I knew enough of the science that like my home brewing was decent, and I did homebrew with the owner of Chimney, and that's kind of how I ended up there.
Okay.
It was, that was for me, I mean, like a great experience. It's a cool group of people, like
the whole beer industry.
Yeah,
and being small brewery guys.
And being at Tired Hands, like I have said multiple times, like most of the people that I work with there are some of the most like genuine, decent, and like also super creative individuals that like that's what they're doing for a job, but it's not their whole life. And that was really cool, like to be part of a group of people who I still hang out with. One of the bartenders here was at Separatist in Philly and said he worked at Atco, and one of the guys that was working there was like, oh, Nick, we worked together at Tired Hands. So like,
it's a big family.
Yeah, it's a launching pad. I mean, they're world class.
Yeah,
Tired Hands.
Yeah. Yards too.
Yeah.
And Chimney Rustic Ales, they made a name for themselves out
they're great
right
down
from
there.
the beginning, and you're here now doing this, but we were given another beer. So
it's Cherry Berry Cobbler, another IPA, another fruited thing.
I want to just try that one.
Some more lactose and vanilla. It's blackberry, tart cherry, some cinnamon.
Your recipe?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
Do you have a certain style, Nick, that you like to do?
Yes and no.
Okay.
I mean, farmhouse fermentation is stuff that I'm really interested in from like the experimental and creative side of things.
As it like a spontaneous fermentation?
Yeah, and also just like the like mixed culture fermentation of like selecting your own yeasts and stuff like that. Given more time and space to meddle around with things, that's always something that I want to lean towards. But I mean, again, like I said, the whatever you want to call it, the pub ale, the mild Diagon ale, like get a good lager out. At the end of the day, I always say, like, even if the style isn't my style, as long as it's well executed, I'm going to enjoy it.
Good. Okay.
Right. You're a big Belgian guy, aren't you?
Yeah.
I just feel, I'm just hearing you like talk about like the way you do it. Just sounds like so much stuff sounds like how Belgian beers are done too.
But I also am like a big local guy. So I'm going to go to the breweries that like have people that I enjoy being around and who I want to support.
Right. Okay. By the way, I meant Belgium. I meant the style and the way they create beers, like that mentality too. Because
I think the creativity of it.
Yeah, and those beers are also those, and Europe in general, right? That's a lot of local beers. You go to Germany, it's all those town beers, right? It's all those small breweries and little towns, and you drink out of those local places.
Yeah,
right?
every town in Germany has its own style of beer.
Yep. That bigger question, it would be: do you think in American overall in the beer thing happening now that there's less of this need to find the next bigger, better as people are drinking more local?
I think
because there was a race for a while, right? Every minute it was like I got to have the next IPA that's the hottest IPA every minute.
They couldn't go.
But the larger that the like community of people who are willing to like experiment in craft beers becomes, the more people who are entry level, people who become interested in just being a part of the thing that's in the town.
Right.
I think that's what's happening. You still have that same core of people who are always going to one up themselves.
Right.
And just, you know what I mean? And those people are still going to go out and do that, and you do a crazy thing and people are going to jump on it. But there's so many more people. The craft beer industry is growing while the macro market share is dwindling.
Yep. Right.
You know,
and like you said, that's really squeezing the middle, like the regional beer, the yardsy sort of world is really
It's a shame because I think sometimes they get bundled in with the people see yards, they see them in 12 different states, so they think they're Anheuser-Busch.
Yeah,
but they're really not. If you look at them, same thing with England.
And they're all connected to each other.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that's their idea is if we can't drive through one state to get the next state, they're pretty much not expanding there.
But that was the dream.
Yeah,
I mean, when you were trying to beat Budweiser and Miller, you really were only just trying to be a bigger company that could serve a few states and
distribution.
And you weren't trying to be that town model hadn't existed in 2009. That wasn't a thing.
Well, it's funny.
Not in Jersey.
Not in Jersey, right? Not in Jersey, right?
We've had this discussion many times, and maybe with you with some of the other shows, and the craft brewery is the new corner pub. I grew up in Philly, and you couldn't swing a cat without hitting a corner pub. You know what I mean? And these craft breweries popping up in these small towns like Atco, and that's where it's a gathering place. People come, they hang out, they talk stuff.
I just something you said. Maybe it was us or another cat. No,
that was me. I gave you that look.
Another podcast. Are you cheating on us, Kevin?
I spread myself pretty thin sometimes. I know it's hard to believe.
Kevin and I are both whores.
Yeah,
I think it's pretty official that we're both podcast whores.
I'm not.
They are podcast whores.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
podcast whore. Yeah, I'll give you
Richard,
that.
I like that.
Yeah, right. Wear with a badge of honor.
Put that on a business card.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, really.
What do you do for a podcast whore?
Entrepreneur and podcast whore.
And another thing I noticed too, that Richard's sitting in with us, he is probably the most well-versed beer guy sitting amongst us.
Which is kind of
Nick not included.
Yeah, well,
amongst the Jersey beer guys.
And a girl.
Yeah, he is the most. He's the one with the most
which
skills.
is weird.
Can that be possible?
Yeah.
You understand me? By the way, I'm on another podcast. It's almost a hiatus, but called Fear of a Craft Beer Planet.
Oh, yeah.
And we were here a while ago, and on that show, I'm the idiot.
I know Jay and Rob.
Oh, you know Jay and Rob, yeah. So on that show, I'm the idiot. Like they're the ones teaching me about craft beer. Yeah. So it's so ridiculous. He just said that somehow I'm the most important beer guy. When you know who Jay and you know Ryan Egan too.
Yeah. Well, my wife is the co-tasting room manager at Tonewood.
Oh, okay. So yeah. So
you've met her before, Michelle.
Yeah.
She's the
I know Michelle. Yeah, of course. Yeah. Absolutely. So thank you, but that's seemingly ludicrous. But thanks.
She walks to work like we live in Oakland. So,
there you go. Yeah. Wow, we're pretty low.
What's that? What's that, Art?
He's the genius.
Wow. We got to raise that bar a little bit. What do you think?
Yeah, right.
He's spouting off facts and numbers and going with Belgians and this and that. I'm thinking, oh my god!
I'm like, is it cold?
I'm like, can I just lick my glasses? Does this taste good?
Welcome to my world.
So, what do you think about the cobbler?
This is very good. Yep.
Yeah.
It's very good.
See, I don't like cherries, but
no,
I can't. You don't ever get a lot of cherry.
No,
yeah.
No, that's like I had your raspberry one.
Yeah.
Not a big fan of raspberry. That was really good.
That's super heavy on the raspberry too.
But
it's so tart that
raspberries are tart.
But I didn't get I got a nice flavor, but I didn't get that. Oh my God, this is raspberry. If I didn't read it, I would have known. But it just has that nice, kind of fruit flavor. This one is very good,
and it finishes well too.
Yeah,
it's a little stronger, so we might have cut you down.
No, I know. I saw 9%. I saw that.
Yeah,
but it's only a little glass, so it doesn't count.
Wait a minute, I love this little glass. I think I'm going to buy one or two of these to take home with me because I really like this glass.
My favorite glass that we have is the mini Tiku glass. It's like stemless, like tulip almost.
Right.
Oh, that's cool.
And I pour everything in that because it just looks good.
That's a plastic one.
It's not the plastic sleeve. No.
That's a clear solo cup.
Exactly.
That's your fancy drinking glass there, Eric.
Exactly.
Brendan's
I had my pinky out.
Make sure you wash that.
I had my pinky out when I was drinking. So,
hey, going back to your raspberry and sour cherry thing. Do you know what got me to like sour cherry and raspberries? sour beers.
Oh.
I started drinking sour beers and found an appreciation for sour cherries and raspberries in things. Like, I never used to like pastries with raspberry filling in it, and now I love it.
Oh.
And that's from drinking sour beers, I think, because I learned to really like that tart.
Do
you guys dabble in the sours?
Thank you, sir.
So we do have one on right now. That's we used what we were talking about. It's a Saccharomyces strain, so like a traditional brewer's yeast strain, but it produces lactic acid as
kind of like the Philly sour,
similar to Philly sour. It's called Sour Vise. It probably, I mean, it actually does like a larger amount of souring than the Philly does. So I think, like in balance, we're gonna mess around with more stuff. But
that's just an acquired. I enjoy sours, not sitting all day drinking them, but
I can drink them every minute. I can drink 30 of them.
I wake up next morning, I feel like a leprechaun peed in my mouth.
Yeah, that too.
Jesus.
Well, me one visual.
I'm big on beer that like took a really long time.
Start talking Irish.
And then just turns out like simple and unsurprising. Like I like just, people taking time with their craft. I just all of a sudden lost my headphones.
You lost your hearing?
Hold on, I'll grab you.
I might have hit it.
That better?
That's that crack engineering crew.
It's time to upgrade my equipment.
Yeah, so just being able to have the foresight. We were talking about Belgian beer. Lambics. It's a blend of a 3-year, a 2-year, and a 1-year spontaneously fermented ale, and just say, well, the building's been producing great beer for 100 years, so I guess it'll happen again tomorrow. And then 3 years down the road, you have to blend that beer with a 2-year-old beer and a 1-year-old beer and still make a good beer.
There's one thing I noticed when I walked in. I always check out the scoreboard, and you guys run the gamut. You don't pigeonhole yourself into certain 1 or 2 or 3 different styles, which is when I come to a craft brewery, that's what I want to do. I want to sit down. I want to try all your stuff. And it was nice to see that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that you can know what you're good at and take pride in being able to do that. But I think if you're trying to invite the local crowd in, especially I think that that's where everything's going. I think you're going to have your giant national stuff, and then you're going to have your locals, and regionals are going to stop kind of happening over time. That just when I project outwardly.
Right.
And you local source and everything? Like try and get everything
it's super difficult. So far here, we haven't been able to do a lot since I started.
Okay.
Just being able to just get off the ground and do things. I know there are a lot of producers that we could reach out to, but with like harvesting times and a lot of them are smaller producers.
Right.
That like you need to get on it or it's gone.
Okay.
So we're also working on the biggest focus right now is seeing how much beer we can produce.
Okay.
With the tanks that we have on, because this is pretty much where the space is at.
Right.
There's not really a lot more that we can do as far as fermentation space. There's one other spot that we could tie in one more tank if we really had to, but when those guys opened up originally, which is almost 5 years now, they were a 3.5 barrel brew house. They got this 7 barrel online, brewed 2 batches of beer, and then got shut down for Corona.
Oh yeah,
right.
So this whole past year has been just a whole, like it was supposed to be one thing and it turned into an entirely different thing.
Yeah, changes.
So now that we know where we're at and we've started to build like a more robust distribution, now it's like, okay, can I brew 6 times a month?
Right.
And then can we still sell that?
Yeah.
Yeah, and put it out there.
What's been your biggest challenge since, let's say, March, since this all started?
So I started here in November.
Okay.
I think that initially these guys were talking about how, they brewed in that little bit of time that they had the new brew house set up, thinking that they were going to make a push.
Okay.
And then brewed a whole bunch of beer and then couldn't sell sell it because it was all in kegs and the tasting room was shut down.
Right.
You know, so then luckily years ago, probably about a year into the brewery, like Sean had the foresight to buy their own canning line instead of bringing a mobile canner, which at the beginning,
I'd like that crystal ball.
Yeah. 4 years ago, you know, it would have probably been the smart deal to bring in a mobile canner. But now we have that here, and that means that everything that we brew can go in a can.
And distribute.
So that's also part of the reason why I haven't done really any of the mixed culture fermentation, any of the wild stuff, any of that other stuff, because anything that has that like higher, or that has the wild stuff, or has the like the STA1 positive like fermentation, I don't want through that canning line. I don't want to pop cans, and I don't want to accidentally risk getting like a diastaticus infection in our cans of like clean beer. So we're just not really doing it right now because it doesn't make sense based on where the market is. If I could bottle like crazy, then I would.
That was about to be my question. And you can't bottle, right?
We don't have a bottling.
You don't have a bottling thing, right?
Yeah,
okay, that's
so I mean, we could manually bottle, but if we're trying to turn out a lot of beer, manually bottling, like me sitting on a table with a beer gun, is like probably not the most efficient use of time.
Right.
So we've talked about it. We discussed it. I did brew one farmhouse ale that's still in the tank, but I like to give those a long time to really like produce. And it was just a like straightforward saison yeast.
Yeah, I love me a nice farmhouse ale.
Me too.
You know, I mean, like, there's nothing better when you walk in, you look in the fridge, and they got them 750 milliliter bottles, because that's what you said. That's where you're gonna. That's where you're gonna put those farmhouse. And they are just such it's not even an acquired taste. It's just there's just a robust. The yeast. It just all comes together.
Maybe I can pull a little off of a tank when you guys are sitting down with.
I was hoping you would say that.
I was dreaming.
That was the lead in. It's probably like 8/10 of the way done, which would be 4/5.
That's close enough for me.
I don't know why I didn't reduce that fraction. So
a lot of people can't reduce that fraction. That's the problem.
That's what she said.
So you then think
4/5, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yes, thank you.
Put your phone down. She got it, but she's a little slow. So we had it down into 30 seconds.
Where's your Mr. Professor calculator at?
Look, I didn't even use the phone.
It's
that was all in my head.
or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. That's what the smoke was. Okay, so
cannot compute.
Well, hold on. Beer came out fast and furious.
Brendan brought us the chocolate covered strawberry IPA, which
I had that earlier. That was really good too.
Again, I went with the balance thing. It's full like cocoa nibs, so it's not like a milk chocolate. Well, I mean, it comes out a little bit milk chocolatey because it is vanilla and lactose again, but it does definitely have like a more earthier chocolate, and then just a bright fruitiness. Like strawberry's not a super potent, definitely strawberry kind of fruit, and it does weird things with color too. So I didn't want to go over top. It turns like a weird burnt orange if you use too much of it.
Okay, very subtle again.
Yeah.
I'm getting the strawberry right away, right on the front end.
A lot of taste.
Yep. And I mean, not a lot, but I can tell. I can taste the strawberry, and
I just want it to be like good and have all of those hints without being something, like I said again, that just murders your palate.
Amy's like, I get the wet. it tastes,
actually,
I get the liquidy.
Actually, this is the first one that I tasted when we got here, and I could definitely taste the strawberries. Yeah, now I'm done. I'm done.
we already hit your palate.
I know, right?
With like
My
12
palate's
other things.
done. So, but yeah, that was definitely.
Try
water.
the water. Try.
Is that what I'm supposed to? I need popcorn.
Water.
Try the Coors Light.
Damn.
We'll bring over a little intermezzo. Do you
have any sherbet?
Some lemon sorbet. Yeah.
There you go.
You know, I'm going to side story something about Coors Light. I used to be on a morning show in radio called The Morning Edge, and this guy Scott Reilly is a Coors Light fanatic, right? Ugh. So they got a chance to work with, I think it was Prism Brewing at the time, to make their own beer,
and
he was trying to recreate Coors Light through Prism Brewing.
Well, so you can't.
That was his goal.
You can't do that,
right? Because it's water.
Well, not just that though. Like people always ask.
He didn't, by the way. They made a pretty good beer.
Who's the best brewer? You know what I mean? The answer, is unquestionably probably someone who works at one of the big ones. It's probably Budweiser. They're all over the world. They do the same thing every time,
right?
No matter what.
Well, yeah,
like,
yeah.
and they're definitely smarter than like all of our brain power combined in order to be able to produce all of that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and so there's a respect level there. I mean, it's not a beer that like I go to the shelf, I'm not going to pick up.
No, but knowing that nature's a fickle beast, that is very impressive that they can make Budweiser all over the world taste the exact same way.
Yeah,
that's actually very impressive. I agree with
Although
you.
I'm going to tell you, ever since I've gotten really involved in the craft beer world and drinking craft beer, I really like a nice lager, like a nice
classic German styles.
Yep.
That's why they're they knew what they were doing.
Miller, I mean, Yingling.
I was going to say, do you go Yingling?
Yingling is just that's
local?
just yeah.
You go to a wedding, right, and you think, oh God, they have Yingling, thank God, right? Because
Boston Lager.
Yeah, but that too, right?
Boston Lager.
You see one of those there, you're like, okay, at least there's something I can drink that's drinkable.
Yeah, you're not going to a catering hall and finding like Suarez lagers or
it's not going to be right. It's not going to be there. Yeah, but you find a Boston Lager, you find a Yingling, something like that, and you're like, okay, I'm good. I don't have to drink Jack and Coke all night. Which
wait a minute.
I don't have to end up with my head in a planter.
Right.
I would be sitting in the corner naked. If I was
my
drinking
God.
Jack and Coke all night.
Sounds like Kevin and I have lived parallel lives, it seems.
All right, I need more beer because I got to get these visuals
This
out
guy's
of my
cut
head.
off.
You've got two there. You can double fist.
Oh my God.
So we have another beer here.
That has to be the Ramblon Raz by the look of it.
Yes.
So that is the one that we were talking about, the Sour Fise.
Oh, I can't wait.
It's like a 3 pH, so it gets you back there in the...
Love it.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that smell is awesome.
That's so good.
I'm loving it.
It's, yeah.
Well, you know me and sours.
I know.
Hands down.
Sour's crazy.
But you can really smell. It's got a strong smell. It's very.
That's
good.
really good.
Very
man.
good smell.
So that's what they were working on in the spring.
Yeah.
I think that came out in May. But it's definitely like it gets you like at the back of your palate.
Oh
like,
no, that was
tart.
at the front.
You got front palate, back palate,
You
all
got
palate.
me in the front.
Come on, Amy. Sour drinking 101. You want to crush your palate. Try it again.
Wow.
It'll
Okay,
be
give
so
me a minute.
tasty.
No,
Like a Warhead candy.
We just talked about.
yeah.
Okay, is that what it is?
We just
I
talked
mean, like
about.
that's what it comes out as to me. Like it's very it's that kind of lactic sour.
Yep.
And it's not like a mixed culture like balanced. It's a straightforward, purposely so, but a straightforward like it's tart and it's fruity and that's what you're getting.
It's like wow.
It's good.
It is good.
It's good. I'm loving
it. But like it really did. Like it hit the tip of my tongue. Like you keep saying it's hit in the back. Well, it didn't. It hit the tip of mine, and that's like shocked me.
It always hits me like in the back of my jaw. Like I feel it like right at the joint. I'm like, like that's what I get.
It totally got me right in the front.
Well, your palate's back, Amy.
Is that what it is?
You just cleansed your whole
No
palate.
coronavirus here.
Amy, I'm going to give you the Jason Rose 3-sip rule for drinking beer.
Okay.
Any new beer you have, you got to give it 3 sips.
No, I know that
We
because
know that.
you
3
gave
sips.
you gave that to me years ago.
Oh, did I? Oh, nice.
You did. That's
Yeah.
one thing I really do appreciate.
Very nice.
Is you gave me that 3-sip rule.
3-sip rule.
And
Yep.
I give it to anybody that is trying a new beer, like the friends that I pay.
Both of them.
All 2 of them.
On a budget.
And I tell them you have to do
Here's
3.
a nickel.
Yeah, if you don't like it in 3, you don't like
and
it.
And they've done it, and they do the 1 and they do that. Oh my God, that's gross kind of thing. I'm like 3 sips. You got 2 more to go.
Sips, yep.
And they do the 2, and they're like, all right, this isn't bad. And they're like,
Right.
that's a good rule. Like that.
Don't get me wrong. I've had 3 and gone, no, this is garbage.
Exactly.
Or it's not my thing. I can appreciate the craft that went into it, but it's not my style.
That's actually my biggest concern about when people come to a place and for the first time what they do is order a flight. Because we can't guarantee that you're going to give 3 consecutive sips to the same beer in order to know what it is,
right?
And like then move down to the next one and then move down to the next one,
right?
So you get a lot of like, well, it was all right, and you don't really know that 3-sip thing. Like it's true because the first time you get it, you're going to get whatever the most prominent flavor is, right? And then your palate's accustomed to that, and then you slowly pick up all the other things. So there were people, who might say that, something was too mellow, like the chocolate strawberry, right? Because the first time around it only comes out as strawberry and it doesn't come out as chocolate, and it doesn't, and then, but by the time I finish a pint of that, I get all the chocolate, I get all the strawberry, I get the Citra dry hop, all of those things come together eventually. You just have to make it through.
So what you're saying is flights is not necessarily a good thing.
No. I mean, I also worked at Tired Hands where we didn't do flights. Okay. We did half pours, like the little 4-ounce type pours, and you could get one or maybe two at a time. But you put 4 or 5 beers in front of someone in that small of a portion sizing, you're not getting the beer as it was intended. You're just getting the, like, I drank everything they had today.
Right. And you got 14 check-ins on Untapped.
Yeah. And I just don't think that that's like a good representation overall.
Not at all.
It definitely lends itself to people who murder your palate with things.
Yeah. So Nick, I don't think I've ever met a brewer alive that is an advocate of flights, because you're absolutely right.
You met dead ones?
Well, I think they're good for people who know about who drink beer well, who know about beer, and then you know what you like. I just want to try these 3 to see what I'm into.
Yeah. If you get into it and you go into it right.
Right, but if you're a beer novice, it's a nightmare. Because you're right. You're not. It's good, like you say. You're not going to know
you're
about.
Be all over the charts. You're like, oh my god, this stuff sucks. Oh, this is great. Blah blah blah.
I'm also an advocate of like, have your staff knowledgeable enough to know.
That's very important. Yeah,
that's
the managing side.
Pinnacle.
Of it.
Yes, absolutely. That is pinnacle in the industry.
And also bring people in who can handle like a volume that says, hey, don't worry about a flight. I can get you your next one.
Yes. Yeah, a go-to person that you can say, okay, I kind of trust him. What do you have for me?
Yeah.
Everything good over there, Richard?
Yeah, no, I was setting up the board.
Okay.
I'm a producer. I do things. I multitask.
I'm not used to a producer who does things.
Yeah.
Look at him. He's all over the place.
I'm not even joking. I've literally been answering phones while putting another caller on the air, trying to write down like a caller's info from a winner's contest.
You can talk to Jay about that.
Yeah.
Long time listener, first time caller.
Yeah,
Jay worked at YSP.
Right.
Okay. And he did endless boundaries. He did endless boundaries.
Yes. You just get really used to sort of like hearing cues and doing things while you just do things.
Yeah. He also hates that air.
Oh God, yeah. Yeah.
That's why I have Amy. Because when I get when the screen comes up, Amy looks at me and she knows it's time for her to speak. When the screensaver comes up real quick.
It happened to me last night. I had Commissioner Karen Fitzpatrick on last night, and she's just a politician down the shore. I work in local radio down the shore, AM radio, and something happened with her Zoom, and I literally just had to take over talking for like a minute and a half till we could fix her Zoom.
Yeah,
you just do, because you're right. You can't have dead air.
No,
so either you dump the music or you talk.
So if you ever want to drive Rich crazy, everyone stop talking at the same time.
Yeah. I'll just start talking. I'll babble like an idiot. Oh yeah, I'll babble like an idiot as long as you need me to.
Don't you always do that though, Richard?
Yes, it's my natural talent. Yeah,
he's good at it.
Yeah, you just put the microphone in front of me, nothing changes.
Right. Yeah, because you're podcast tour.
Yeah, I'm a podcast tour, right?
He's got like him and I started working on one which we have to get back to, which we haven't done. And then he has Fear of a Craft Beer Planet. He's on this one. And then you're working on another one.
I got launching February 1st. I have one going through Darling Productions on Bear on the Air Network. That's Radio Insiders. It's me and my friend Nikki Darling just talking about other radio people, just talking about our crazy radio stories. And then there's, of course, Vic's based in Brewcast through the South Jersey Beer Scene Network.
Vic's an awesome guy.
I love Vic. We have a blast. And then South Jersey Beer Scene whenever they've podcasted here and there. And then I have my friend who's doing It Takes a Vineyard, and we're about to start back up, and she has a show. It's, mom stuff, that
like
sort
a
of
resume.
thing.
Are you?
Oh, I was thinking It Takes a Vineyard was like going to local wineries, which I was going to be like, I'm all about that.
No, but it is moms who drink wine, and one of them is connected to a vineyard in Jersey, so there is a tie in there, and they do want to...
What's the vineyard?
I wish I remembered. That would be so smart of me to have remembered and given that plug, but Coincidentally, things got shut down because of COVID and pregnancy, two things that really affected women.
Especially wine drinking.
Yeah, especially wine
drinking. Yeah. So all of it got affected,
I worked in Hamilton.
Why you keep looking at me?
I didn't think you were pregnant.
No, right?
No.
I worked in Hamilton and got along really well with Ali over at Plagido's.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
I mean, I think they make some of the best wine, if not the best wine in South Jersey.
Well,
I've always got a couple bottles.
You got that Italy background. I'm sure when you went to Italy, there isn't.
Yeah, there's a ton of wine there.
And distilleries all over the place, but vineyards.
I found breweries anyway, though.
Mm-hmm.
I found a little hole in the wall. Well, not hole in the wall, but a very small little row home that had a craft beer. I guess they contract brewed, but they were in Rome, on Trastevere.
What's Italian beer?
I mean, they're
Peroni.
I know that,
but that's like if you said that, what's American beer? Budweiser,
right? I mean, they have
Italian
traditional
beer
style.
Is still, there are some hazelnut lagers.
Okay,
they use a hazelnut flour in it.
Yeah.
That's pretty traditional.
Go figure.
But craft beer in Italy, the same as I also was in Croatia last year. Craft beer in Croatia is all kind of at this point some variation on what the American craft beer influence has been abroad.
Right. Yep.
So you have farmhouse brewers who have always been doing it, but are now bringing that more to the forefront. And then you also have people who are trying to say the American IPA, and it's hazy Citra and Mosaic beers, and trying to do that. I've connected with brewers from Italy, from brewers from the whole former Yugoslav Republic, just from being on Instagram and seeing things and liking them, and then having a little Instagram conversation in direct messages and
swap some recipes with them.
It would be if we could travel, I would be hitting people up and being like, I have 2 weeks of vacation, I'll come over and we'll brew 2 beers.
Would it be possible to get some local hops sent from that area to you? Is that
if there were it would have to go through a customs process and stuff like that. It would probably be probably not cost effective unless you had a processor who was willing to handle that end of it.
Right.
It couldn't just be a 1-to-1.
But I was going to go the other way.
It's agricultural.
Right. Brewers are just chefs.
Yes.
Right. I mean, you're just going to go, okay, so that's what they're doing in Italy. I'm going to do what I have locally, the same sort of vibe, right?
Yes.
That's the style they made there, and I'm going to do it this way here with these ingredients.
Yeah, Japanese rice lagers have started to kind of become a thing.
Right.
Really?
Yeah.
Yes.
Wait.
He said not ramen noodles.
What's a Japanese rice lager?
So rice is a cereal grain just like barley or oats or wheat.
Okay.
So you can use it and mash it in and use it to convert those starches into sugars and ferment it.
Huh. Well,
that's how you get sake.
like a rice beer.
That's how you get sake anyway and stuff like that.
Well, don't they put rice in
sake? Is that sake?
Budweiser?
Okay.
Yeah, it's an adjunct, right?
All right.
Yeah.
That's one of your ingredients.
So it's also super cheap rice. So when you're talking about it in Budweiser, it's to get cheap sugars.
Right.
In Germany, when they do it, it's a better rice, I'm sure, right? Isn't that somewhat of a traditional thing to keep the ABV down? I do understand the story right? See why I'm the dummy on my show? Isn't that a traditional thing to use rice as a way to keep the
cost down?
To keep the grain bill down or something, to somehow keep the ABV down?
Right.
I feel like I've heard this story before, but I don't exactly understand the process.
Oh boy!
Have they used rice before? Germans do use rice in some of the recipes, right?
I'm sure everyone does in some level or fashion because if you have it on hand,
right,
it gets used.
That's what I'm saying. So so I'm not okay.
No. Everyone's probably done every type of thing. Big thing, I would say turn of the 19th century. A big thing was trying to get the lightest possible beer.
Right. That's why you're using the rice. Is that right? Is that part of it?
It's the lightest color.
Right.
So when you're kilning your malt and you have an open flame to kiln your malt, it's always going to be toasted. So that's why porters were dark, because they could only get toasted malt.
Exactly. That's the process.
So the whole the American lager pre-prohibition was just an arms race to get to who could brew the lightest color beer, and it was just a point of pride essentially. essentially, like who can malt, which, you know, the Germans still have like one Lovabond, like super light, practically translucent type malts, which, you know, for lagers, especially when you want to just be like, look how clear I can get it.
Right.
We talked about that earlier too.
Yeah.
Looked up, you could see right through it.
But nobody would drink
side
that.
of a nice lager.
Boy, that sounds so alien to how beers are now, right?
Absolutely.
Nobody wants to stand for a beer now.
No, and Richard, this is where I think...
Right.
Yeah,
I mean, if you know the style, right. But I mean, you know.
I think it's making a 180. I think everybody's trying to dabble in lagers. And Nick and I were talking about it earlier. It's a difficult beer to make. It looks so basic, but it's if you're going to do it right.
Yeah. If you mess up your water chemistry or you like do something silly with your grist and it doesn't turn out right, you know,
there's nowhere to hide.
Everyone's going to know.
That's definitely one thing you don't see at breweries around is lagers. Like, there's not many.
Like, we have this Pilsner on.
You got it. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it also takes a lot of time.
Mm-hmm. Right.
It takes 8 weeks,
right.
9 weeks, 10 weeks. I mean, I want to go longer than shorter.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Mm-hmm. Right. Are you getting into a barrel?
That's what she said.
I'm there.
Oh boy.
Are you guys barrel aging anything or getting into barrel aging?
I have 2 barrels here.
Nice.
So we were just I brewed. It was one of the first handful of beers. It was already recipes that they had on order when I got here. Was Dust Razor,
right?
Yep. Beer that has been brewed multiple times before. We have it on draft and in cans right now, but we switched the smoke to cherry wood this year. The last time it was brewed, it was beech.
I love good smoked beer.
So it's an imperial. It's 11%.
Oh yeah!
Wow.
And
that's where it's at.
That's a big boy there.
Yeah.
That'll put hair on your chest.
So I one day I was like, I know a few places we can get like single barrels easy. So Sean and I went over and we ended up getting a Basil Hayden barrel.
Wow.
No kidding.
Okay.
So I ran just under 2 barrels of beer into that Basil Hayden barrel.
Nice.
So smoked ale in a fresh empty bourbon barrel, and then the same place had fresh empty Cabernet Sauvignon barrels.
Okay.
Oh.
And I said that I fermented. I said I fermented that farmhouse beer.
Okay.
So when it was pretty much done fermentation, which it's still kind of slowly, I capped it so it's picking up pressure like a PSI every couple of days. But when it was pretty much done, I ran the rest, about 2 barrels, into this one Cabernet Sauvignon barrel. It's a darker, like caramel malt.
Yeah, it's
farmhouse beer.
Different taste on that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I already got like a pretty pungent wine nose on it. So going straight into a fresh empty cab barrel. But again, like I said, that's like one of those things. Timing wise, we got to figure out who's sitting down and spending an 8-hour day hand bottling right now.
You're getting me excited here.
Well, I think that's the tricky thing in the beer industry right now, right? I mean, special releases are hard to get people to get behind.
Yeah.
I mean, I see so many of the ones that come out now are still on shelves when, 4 years ago or 3 years ago, those things disappeared.
Those 750s are
And I love them, by the way. That's my favorite thing is a 750 bottle that I can take home, and that's either one night of me getting drunk or 2 nights of me being happy.
Bring
a couple friends. Now you can't.
Or bring a couple friends.
That's part of the problem too. Is it's so you're not having 8 or 10 people over to have
bottle share.
A bottle share.
Yeah,
right.
Well, you're not supposed to.
Or you're not supposed to, right.
Or you're definitely more judicious about who you're inviting over, because there were definitely some people that you were getting drunk with at a bottle share who you don't want to be hanging out with right now.
Right. Maybe that's why I haven't been invited to many lately. I don't know.
That's the only reason.
Sorry, I didn't mean to be the one to bring that up.
Yeah, sorry.
But I worked it when I was at Tired Hands. So I the assistant brewer thing at the Brew Cafe was like a 2 or 3 day a week gig, and I eventually went full time because they call it the dispensary. It's an off-site oak aging facility. So I worked on that bottling line and worked with a lot of the barrels there. And they're like, at the end of the day,
that's an art.
If you just load, because they have the general store over there, you just load that place up with bottles. They're only going to get, eventually they're going to take a turn south, but they're only going to get better for the most part while they're sitting on a shelf.
Right.
Unless you leave a beer for 5 years.
Right.
In the sun.
Although Tired Hands uses green bottles on purpose. They think that, like, and I kind of agree, that like the traditional Saison, this traditional Belgian Saison, right, in that green glass, like it has that slight skunk if it's got a little bit of sun to it, is essentially par for the style.
Right.
I mean, you don't like.
They knew that was happening.
Like Saison DuPont is in a green glass for a reason. One of the interview questions that I was asked as a server at Tired Hands was, "What do you think about Saison DuPont?" And I said, I think it's great. It's the standard for the style. And the guy who was interviewing me said, good, because I wasn't going to hire you if you said you didn't like it.
Wow.
How about that?
But that was also, like the last part of the interview. We were already getting along. It was like, but he knew where I stood on it. But it's like one of those things. Like, if you go see that little checkered yellow and white bottle, like, grab it.
But he also knew that you know your stuff.
Yeah.
That's.
All right, so we were just served another beer.
This is Trenchtown Hop. Jay wanted to do Marley kind of tribute beer. He's a big big Marley reggae.
Okay. That's
all right.
And jam bands and stuff too. So he wanted to do like a little thing, and so we picked some more dank.
Yeah, I get that.
I'm going to tell you, it's not really danky. I've been enjoying one earlier.
Yeah,
it's
got that like
it's a little bit,
funky, not danky.
El Dorado for me is like a little like for some reason aromatically I always get diesel fuel.
Really?
Okay. It's not a negative thing. It's just like that.
You got to stop hanging out on the turnpike, Nick. That's why.
Well, I've never drank diesel fuel before, though.
But it's just like it's just in the back. Like it hits me in a certain spot. Like I don't mind. Those people who say like they like the smell of a gas station. Like,
I love the smell of gasoline.
I do too.
Yep.
Yeah. I don't get that.
Maybe that's what happened.
Had nothing else to do.
Well, when we were kids, it was leaded gas, leaded, unleaded. So maybe she.
So this is Ella and El Dorado. Ella is like cousin of Galaxy.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, but it's nice.
So it's mellow.
Oh, you were going to say Ella Fitzgerald. Okay.
Yeah.
Wait, what's this called?
Trenchtown Hop.
Yeah,
it's a hazy IPA.
Nice mix.
It is indeed hazy.
Yeah.
The hops are nice.
Amy and her IPAs.
Yeah, that one, I don't know. I got to be honest.
But it's not over.
IPA just isn't.
It's not over hoppy, though.
It doesn't smell like an IPA, and it doesn't.
What does an IPA smell like, Aim?
We're not allowed to discuss that. You told me. It does not have.
No, that's the Brett, right? Is that? Are you
What?
still on that?
No, like it did.
The Brett?
No, not Brett.
Amy wasn't a fan of the Brett IPAs.
IPA smells like whatever hops you used, so it could be pretty much anything in the dry hop.
Amy said it smelled like cat piss. And we're like, we can't say that.
I'm not allowed to say
I mean,
that.
technically, caddy is fully on your description list of of hops.
See?
Actually,
Thank you.
I actually think it's a badge, right? It smells
It's
like
caddy. Yeah.
I mean, that's another one. A Brett IPA. Once you crush the palate, it's actually pretty tasty.
I mean, I love Brett.
Yeah.
In anything. Yeah. But we've, I think, fully established that at this point.
Right. Plus, I think it's probably, I don't know if it's officially newer in the beer industry, but in the wine industry, they've been using bizarre descriptions to describe wines for years.
Yes.
I mean, you can literally read a wine, it's like notes of sour cherry, grape, and tobacco. Right,
leather.
Exactly. And
horse leather. And you're like,
for those of you that like to put your face in your cat's litter box, you'll love this one.
Yeah, exactly. So, and it's no doubt the same thing happens in beer. You can get a bunch of, really mixed tastes.
I'm sure that the industry has taken cues. Like,
right, exactly, right.
If you can...
Dank.
Yeah.
I mean, that's...
Dank is such a weird thing.
Yes.
But dank is straight just pulling like terminology from stoners.
Right. Yeah.
Like it's just like, hey, open up a bag of weed and stick your head in it. That's what this smells like. That's what they mean when they say dank.
Which, by the way, is also just such an open thing because no weed, and that's like such a generalization too, because weed smells so different from weed to weed to weed, style to style to style.
I thought you were going to say, which, by the way, that's another podcast that I'm on.
That's what he's getting into.
The future is legal in the state. There's actually a brewery not too far from here, I think, Glasstown. They had a beer called Danky Kong.
Yeah.
Yep. I mean, that was really hits you in the face, knocks you out.
And that's a thing also going back to weed, I mean, now in some of these legal states, that's something also they've dabbled in, which, by the way, if anybody wants to talk quickly about conspiracies in the world, you noticed hemp was illegal, pot was illegal, but hops, the other cousin involved in this, has been legal the whole time. So just to throw that out for you people, a little conspiracy theory fun. Nobody's ever
like
questioned hops.
full Charlie Kelly, like Pepe Sylvia, like drawing red lines from photo to photo.
We'll put that when we upload it. We'll put that there. Yeah. Well, that's Jay Rose tells that funny story all the time. The time he came back from I forget what brewer he was, and he gave me a big bag of hops, and I looked at him like, "Oh, dude, this is the best looking weed ever." He's like, "Yeah, go smoke that, Richard. Go ahead."
If you dried those cones out, especially,
what happens if you smoke it?
Nothing. There's no psychoactive thing at all, just like in hemp. That's the conspiracy. Hemp has no psychoactive things at all, no THC, and hops has no THC. But they're both cousins to pot in, if you go down the family tree of plants, they're both cousins. But hemp has been illegal since the 20s, and pot's been illegal since the 20s.
By the way, this hat is a soccer team. And that's it.
Okay. Well, it's Stainers, right?
It says
Stoners. I thought it was an A.
They're
Masons.
So it does look like an
Pennsylvania Pennsylvania is the Keystone State. They were a professional soccer team in Pennsylvania.
No shit.
Sure.
Where at?
I don't know.
Just in Pennsylvania.
I just bought it because it said Stoner.
and the soccer ball has the Keystone logo as the panels.
Yeah, it's I don't even know who owns this company, but it's Ebbets Field Flannels. So
nice,
and they're good. They're good heavy wool, like old school baseball caps.
That looks like a nice hat.
Yeah,
that's old school.
Yeah,
that's like the Brooklyn Dodgers kind of.
My grandfather was a Brooklyn Dodgers fan.
Kidding.
Yeah, he grew up in Brooklyn. We started a baseball collection together when I was like 16.
Nice.
And he had, which my grandma still has, seats from Ebbets Field.
Really?
I have seats from the vet.
Okay.
Like, that was.
Do you think it's like ticket stubs?
No,
or
seats.
Physical seats.
Physical wooden seats from Ebbets Field when it got torn down in 1958 or whatever.
Shit!
Awesome.
Yeah. So he started his collection and I started my collection at the same time, and we would go to autograph signings together so that he could get Don Newcomb and Duke Snyder's autographs, and I could get Pete Rose and Mike Schmidt's autographs.
Right.
All right. So what do you think? Pete Rose, Hall of Fame?
I think he's done enough to himself at this point that he got close, and he just whatever. If I was going to be controversial, it wouldn't be Pete Rose. It would be saying that Barry Bonds should be in the Hall of Fame, because if you let him play baseball for his whole career without suspending him, then
or Shoeless Joe.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, there's no controversy in that. Everyone agrees that Shoeless Joe should be in the Hall of Fame.
Right.
I mean, Pete Rose was. Listen, that 80s when they brought him in, Joe Morgan and stuff like that, it was like the perfect mix. It was that, and then '93. Those knuckleheads in that '93 team went to the World Series. But in 1980 they won it, which was a pinnacle that '93 team couldn't.
Yeah.
But like Pete Rose and Joe Morgan,
Joe Morgan was '83. Joe Morgan wasn't on the 80 team.
Thank you. Pretty smart for a stoner.
Also, that was because it was before I was born, but yeah, Joe Morgan was on the 83 team. That was the Wheeze Kids.
The Wheeze Kids.
Yes.
I think the bigger question would have been how is betting worse than taking performance-enhancing drugs? Right? That would have been the big question.
Yeah.
Right,
but
so
the thing
anyway,
is, they were going to get past the betting thing with Pete Rose, and then
he opened his mouth.
And then they started finding out about him having some sexual exploits in his past.
Yeah, there's that too.
Well, if you're going to talk about performance-enhancing drugs, I mean, every NFLer from 1987 to 1997 was
every baseball
had a needle sticking out of her.
I'm for them. I don't care if they snort lines in the dugout. Let them do whatever. As far as I'm concerned, if it's a more exciting game, go for it.
Yeah. The the NASCAR thing is if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying, right?
Right.
Yes.
February 14th.
Eric picked up because
I know.
NASCAR.
Are you a NASCAR guy too?
My dad is a huge car guy, so like
you run the gamut, my friend. You're a Renaissance man,
and he's got the beard.
I know.
He's got the brewer's beard going on too. He's the man.
Yeah. My dad goes down to the raceway. He's got a '84 Mustang GT that he's dropped a new engine in, and
good for him, man.
Can I tell you a funny story real quick about an '84 Mustang GT? So, guy I went to high school with, he had an auto body shop. His father and him, they modified this '84. It was a 5.0, I think.
5.0.
So, if you grew up in the Northeast, you used to race up and down the boulevard.
Yep.
So I'm sitting in the front seat. The guy pulls up next to us, like, you know what it was? It was a Grand National.
Might have been Rob.
Okay. So my buddy goes,
you were in a Grand National, or a Grand National pulled up next to you?
I was in the Mustang GT, and the Grand National pulls me. So my buddy goes, "Yo, you got to get out." I'm like, "What do you mean?" He goes, "I can't have an extra 300
exactly.
And I'm like,
I only had one cheesesteak.
I'm standing on the corner of Roosevelt Boulevard and Walsh Road for like 3 hours as he's going up and down the boulevard. I'm like,
that's what you did.
It's freaking December. Go get the freaking.
You're like, I only weigh 290.
Yeah, but you were out there with like 30 other people. Come on, stop. Roosevelt Boulevard was big back then.
And then he's get pulled over all the time. It was so funny when you get pulled over.
Was the Grand National driver like an older lady, or do you remember?
I'm going to tell you something. That was like, you know, and I'm not a car guy, but that was like the probably one of the quickest stock cars off the assembly line. Grand National.
Yeah, they were quick.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. Yep. All right, we're going to start wrapping up. We've got this for a little while. We're going to talk
get
to
these
Jay.
other guys in.
Yeah, we're going to talk to Jay and Sean. We're out of beer. I need to go to the bathroom.
Me too, but I didn't want to say it.
Yeah, I've been going the whole time.
We'll have a coffee break, and I'll get Jay and Sean over here with some more beer.
Nick, thank you for sitting down with us.
That's awesome, man.
Thank you.
Yes. Great guy.
It's been a good time.
Back. Make sure you stop at Atco Brewing and visit these guys. Stop for the beer, but we'll talk more when we wrap up the next segment. It looks like it's going to be a two-parter.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we went pretty good. Two-part episode right here. So we'll be back.
Saturday drinking.
Yes.
Jersey Beer Guys
And the Girl
is hosted by Rob Talley
and Amy Diamond,
along with Eric Bracken and Ian Talley. It's produced and edited by Richard Raven.
You can find us on Twitter and Facebook at Jersey Beer Guys 1 or Instagram at Jersey Beer Guys.
Thanks for listening, and remember, try something Jersey.
You still here? It's over. Go home. Go.